Happy Tuesday. I hope you guys had an amazing weekend, fun-filled, with plenty of rest, because that's always a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for joining me here today on another episode of the Coach Velia podcast. We are live here on Facebook and YouTube, and we are also streaming on Apple and Spotify for those of you that are listening in. We would love for you to join us here on our Facebook community every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. at Coach Velia. So many exciting things happening. We are at the end of January. I don't know how you guys felt, but this month felt eternal for me. There was a whole bunch of fun projects, but it seemed like every time I look at the day and it was still January, it would kind of weird me out a little bit, because I'm thinking, man, we're still in January. And it just feels like it's been a super, super long, productive month. I am ready to welcome in February tomorrow, along with many intentions that I've set for myself in working with others and just trying to be the best that I can be, while still making sure I have enough balance for self-care and self-love and rest, because that's super, super important to keep us going. So I'm hoping that you guys are also taking good care of yourselves, that are writing down some special information that's coming in. If you are inspired, please write those things down. I'm so happy that you're back to hear a little more about relationships. Today, we're going to talk about the relationship with other people. And you'll be surprised how much it ties in with the relationship that we have within ourselves. So I want to encourage all of you guys, again, to grab a piece of paper, pencil, pen. Make sure you have that with you. We're going to be asking more questions today. I think it was interesting. I had a lot of people call in and message me and share that they were a little overwhelmed with last week's episode on Thursday, when we talked a little more about, the relationship that we have with ourselves, and how sometimes we are lacking a little bit of focus, or the focus is probably being directed somewhere where it's not going to be productive when it comes to you growing and understanding yourself a little bit better. We begin to become a little distracted when it comes to our self-care, our self-awareness. And again, that's okay, because it's not something that anybody has taught you to do. You'll notice that from the time we're very young, we're told how to behave and how to treat other people. And so depending on how you were raised, we kind of just went along with it, didn't ask many questions. And I share a little bit about that in my first and second episode, how much of it is just programming. So today we're going to ask ourselves a few more questions. I do know that it was triggering for some people. And again, I'm not going to apologize, because I really do believe that being triggered is the beginning of change when you are ready to make those changes. So again, it's not for everybody, but for those of you that are kind of like, where do I start? What do I do? Where do I go? You'll be surprised how simple it is once you have the awareness of oh, I do this. Whether you like it or not, you can always find out where it came from, if you want to continue it, if you want to change it. So life is full of options. And, sometimes I'm in life and I'm hearing people's communication, how they speak, how they think, the people they hang out with, many times how they don't have hope. And so every day in and out, they're literally manifesting situations around them, creating scenarios that they're living in, and they have no idea they're the reason why they live how they live. So yesterday we went to a store, my sister and I, we were shopping for a few decor items. And I always make a joke when I have a bunch of stuff, and the cashier, I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, I woke up today to make your life miserable, or make it complicated or something. And that kind of sparks a conversation when, people laugh and we talk about, how funny how sometimes we think everything bad has to happen. So I always get lucky, and I'm able to share a little bit of, I call it sunshine, for those people that are ready. So she made a comment like, it's okay, my days are always horrible. I was like, okay, I started something. So I just talked to her a little bit, while she was ringing me up or whatever. And it's unfortunate, very common, that most people feel that life is happening to them and not for them, right? And you can sit here and say, well, Coach, you have no idea what my life has been like. I have no idea, but I do know that you're in complete control over how your life continues to unfold according to your belief systems. So that's why it's so important to remember that the relationship with yourself is the most important one. Many times we jump into other relationships or other situations thinking that things are going to change, But as we talked about last week, when you're the common denominator in these things, chances are you're going to get the same results. And it's not because God or the universe is trying to punish you. It's literally trying to show you how you literally can navigate life if you understand that you're the one driving, that you're the one reading the map, that you're the one having the expectations of what's supposed to happen next, right? So we talked a little bit about if you think things are going to happen and they're all horrible, it has a lot to do with why things do happen in your life, because you're feeling undeserving of anything good and you're welcoming in love and in the old stuff. So here we go again with the brain, right? Recreating the same scenarios over and over again, thinking and assuming that you don't have another option. So you kind of just go with the flow. It's kind of like being in a boat and, you don't have anything to steer with, no wheel, no oar, no nothing. And you're like, I'm going to just go wherever the waves take me. And that's great. But if you always think the waves are going to be rough and high and detrimental, then guess what? You're allowing yourself to be controlled by whatever the elements bring into you instead of you desiring what you want for your life. So I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an insight. We are going to pick it apart a little bit because I really want you guys to understand that your environment has a lot to do with how your life actually plays out, right? And we can blame other people again. We can blame the weather. We can blame the job. We can, be mad at people who hurt us, but at the end of the day, it doesn't change the size of your waves, or it doesn't change your actual outlook on life, because we have this poor me mentality. And, if that was the case, then that would be fine. But even though you might not have the best experiences as of yet, I want to show you that you can change that for yourself. First, you have to envision better for yourself. It's hard to create something if you have no idea what you want for yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit more about how the relationship with others is actually playing a huge role in what you're living in your daily life, right? Many times you'll see quotes, and we talked a little bit about it last week, is that you are the sum of the people that you hang out with. And they say, the number 5, right? So I want you to start off today by writing down who are the 4 or 5 people that you hang out with. So I'm not saying every single day, right? But who do you call to go get coffee with? Who do you call when you have a problem? Who do you call when you're trying to, really get better in life or advance or whatever? Like, who are these people? Who do you go out and drink and party with or whatever when you want to celebrate something? Like, who are these people? It could be family, it could be friends. I mean, you name it. Write these things down because I want to bring some things to your awareness. And again, I love to write things down because there's something that the brain does when you see it written versus just kind of thinking about it, because thoughts come and go. Perfect example, last night I had a really rough night, and it's because I'm getting ready to start some new projects. I'm going to be traveling next month. And, I have everything prepared, everything's done. And there's a group of practitioners that I have the privilege to lead and to have in this holistic health center that I created. And everything's fine, everybody's taken care of, but I have all this information coming in. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, everything's taken care of. But it was kind of like, have a meeting before you leave, say this, say that. I'm like, what? And I'm just kind of like, okay, just write it down or they're not going to leave you alone. They is whoever communicates with me. I haven't asked them each individual who they are and what they stand for. But there is a whole bunch of stuff that comes in when you're at rest that you did maybe have a chance to take care of during the day, or there's additional things to take care of. So it's very important for you to understand the communication that comes in from yourself versus the communication that we run to receive from other people. I have a comment here that says, I only have one person. Well, that's what it feels like. It feels like you only have one person. But if your parents are around, if you still checking on them, there's 2 people all of a sudden. If there's a spouse, if there's a kid, you hang out with more than one person, right? So let me clarify by saying who you spend a lot of your time with as well. So if you have like a best friend, a spouse, a child, an uncle, whatever, write those names down, because I want to show you what it is that you're going to be seeing, what you have been seeing, and then what you could be seeing as well, and how we're going to shift a couple of things for you to see just the difference that one thing can make, okay? So let's start off with asking some questions. Again, we're here on Facebook Live and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys, on this beautiful Tuesday morning. End of January. So excited again to welcome in February and all its amazingness it's going to bring. I was hoping that today you guys would write down a few things, but I'm gonna, put it on the description again so you guys can take a look at it later. Again, as always, when you listen to these podcasts, I hope and really, really pray that you guys receive this, knowing that it comes from my heart, from a lot of experience. I remember last week, I don't know what I was going through, but I became very emotional after the last episode. And I remember I wanted to hurry up and get off. And I'm thinking, why was I so emotional? And it's because my heart breaks for people that are stuck. It took me a minute to figure out why I was so emotional. But in just talking about people and how you're stuck, and many times we're blaming other people, like, it brings me a world of emotions, and I honor those emotions, and I allow them to come. And I was kind of like, it's not the right time, but I'm like, you know what? No, it's always the right time. So in sitting, I said, you want to be emotional, and then what? So I allowed myself, I honored the emotions that came in. And I remember just making a statement like, I wish that I can just give everything that's in my head to everybody, and all the experiences I've had and all the pain and suffering, and to show others that there is a different way, right? But many of us have to go through experiences to figure it out, right? Whether it be 1 time, 10 times, or 100 times. And some people just won't figure it out. We talk about that, and it's okay. But I was overwhelmed with emotion because I would love to be able to just share everything, and to put some bumper guards around the experiences that might cause a little bit of pain. And then I remember that everybody has their own journey, right? Same thing I'm teaching, to allow people to experience the things that they have to, so they can in turn feel empowered to make choices that are going to literally change their lives, but they have to want it. And I remember making a statement a while back and saying, I have to promise myself I'm never going to work harder than anybody else, right? When I have a client, I can't work harder than my client, because if I'm working harder than they are, then the expectations change, right? I can want it bad for people, but if they don't want it for themselves and they don't do the work, then it doesn't make any sense for me to get all emotional about it or tore up. And the reason why I'm sharing it is because in talking about the topic today, I know a lot of you guys have struggled through this, right? Through either people you've tried to help, or maybe you didn't follow through in helping other people. And I also know that many of you are beating yourself because of it. We're going to talk a little bit about overcommitting and under delivering, because that's also something that ties in with the relationship with others. Okay. So let's get started. As you know, we also have our Instagram and TikTok channels. So make sure you guys subscribe there. YouTube channel has a low load. I just published a whole bunch of courses that at one point were for sale. They're all free. So rush over to my YouTube. I know people were asking, hey, I have friends and family. They don't have social media. And I said, well, there's YouTube, and you can always share links. So there are playlists. Somebody had asked, and I want to make sure that you guys know, there's plenty of content on there. I have a full course. I think it's like 10 episodes. They're an hour each, on motivational journeys and the kind of things that might have you stuck. I also did Spanish radio for a while, and I have over 30 episodes on there that are interactive that you guys can listen to. So if you have anybody who's Spanish speaking, you want to introduce them to the work, it's there. This ties in with today's topic about the relationship with others. How many of you will send, friends and family motivational reels and listen to this person, and oh my gosh, and now you're just finger trigger happy, sending a whole bunch of these motivational things to other people. And so the first question I'm going to start asking is, how much of that are you applying to your life, where people actually want to see the things you send them? Number one, are you leading by example? Number two, are you forcing yourself on other people, right? Are you mad at them because they're not believing, saying, or doing the things you want them to do? And also, many times, here's kind of a difficult situation. Like, they'll say, hey, coach, my mom, my grandma, my aunt, whatever, when are you going to do whatever? And they want it for these people, but people don't want to sign up, right? They don't want to come see me. And that's okay, right? But we want it so bad for other people that sometimes we get upset when they don't step into it. So I want to make sure we're all staying in our lane and understanding people do things at their own time. And I can't stress that enough, because there are more people that come in stressed out about everybody else and their life choices, and again, put themselves on the back burner, but are not allowing things to go and flow freely. And sometimes when you're around, they feel uncomfortable around you because maybe you've shared a few things and you didn't follow through. So I'm going to ask you to analyze your life and say, are things going according to what I'm speaking? Like, is my life leading by example? And you don't have to be perfect. Just ask yourself that question. Stop sending people so many reels, so many links, so many TikToks, right? That's a distraction. live the life so they can come and ask you later, hey, what is it that you're doing? Because I see that your life has changed a lot. And most people that have come through word of mouth and referrals, they come because, hey, you know what, my niece is seeing you, my mom was seeing you, whatever, and I've seen huge changes, and now I want to as well. So I want you to really understand the importance of you living your life according to your design, and how that's going to do more for people you're trying to help than for you to just bombard them with a whole bunch of things. Okay, so take that into account as we're talking about a few things today. It's super important that you guys understand that sometimes that pushes people away and discourages them. It leads into judgment, right? Because they're like, well, you're sending me all this stuff. What kind of life are you living? So again, self-assess, self-awareness, and let's also help others to understand that, it doesn't happen overnight. So for those of you that are sending people, the direction that you would like for them to take, just ask yourself if that's the roadmap you're taking first. Okay, always a very important question to ask yourself. Also, what we are doing around other people, how we're presenting ourselves is so important. Who you hang out with and their limitations have a lot to do with the way you pursue, the daily task in your life. And I don't think that many of us realize that that's happening. So I'm going to ask you guys again, when you write down the name of, again, it could be your spouse, kids, friends, family, or who you even talk to on a daily basis on the phone, right? Hey, today I'm going to do this. Oh, you should do this. You should do that. People are full of suggestions and opinions. So I'm hoping after today's episode, you have more awareness as to what people are telling you to do and how they're influencing you. So let's go ahead and go down the list of questions. If you guys have additional questions for me, please feel free to type them in, message them. You can also text. So I'll be putting all that information on here. I'm more of a texter than anything. So I'll put my number down here in my email, 760-221-3147. And then you can email me at coachvelia.com. So there's some information for you. Let's get into these questions here that I know are super important to start promoting the change in your life, or the sustainable things that need to change in your life. So first question I want to ask you guys is a very simple question, but I think it's so simple that we tend to complicate it. And the question is, really all of us, like I wonder how many of us understand how much other people, their belief systems play a role in our life. Like, so ask yourself this question. Do you have any idea how many of the beliefs of other people are actually playing out in your life? Like, yes or no? I want you to ask yourself, like, what you guys saw growing up around your family, right? As much as you can remember, as little, it doesn't matter. But so say you're in your family and whatever your parents believe, your aunts, your uncles, your older cousins, older brothers and sisters, like, what did you see growing up around them, like around family and the relationships with family, career, money, and different relationships, right? Was marriage, I have people say, like, I don't even know what a healthy marriage looks like. I've never seen what that looks like. Like, growing up, all our people were divorced, separated, there was multiple kids from whatever. So what did you see growing up around relationships in general? It doesn't have to be romantic relationships. Again, it could be around school, career, friendships, ask yourself the questions, what you saw growing up, because that's huge in how you are living your life today. And I want you to ask, however you grew up, like, do you still believe those things today? Are they still playing out in your life today? Like my mom said, it's so funny. I have an ongoing thing with my client that, she made tamales a certain way growing up for Christmas. And so I asked her a simple question, which, I'm gonna ask today. For those of you that don't know what tamales are, it's a Latin dish that most people make around Christmas, and depending on your culture, everybody makes them different. But typically when you make sweet tamales, you get the actual dough, which is from corn. It's cornmeal. And you make sweet tamales, you put all the ingredients in with the dough and you mix them together, right? And then while they're mixed together, you grab it and you put it in this corn husk and you wrap it and then you steam it for a few hours until everything's nice and fresh. So now you take out your tamale, it's ready, it's moist, it's beautiful, all that good stuff. However, to make the ones that are with cheese and chili or beef, you do need to put the cornmeal on there first, a nice little mixture that you make, the dough. And then you fill it in with either the cheese or the meat, the chicken, whatever it is, and then you fold it. So I asked her a question last month. I said, why is it that, you do it that way? Why is it that you could make the sweet tamales all mixed together, but the other ones have to be layered? Like, why can't you mix everything together and put it in the corn husk? And she kind of looked at me like a deer in headlights. And I'm laughing because I'm always trying to question why people believe what they do, and not so much to minimize, the importance, but for them to understand where they've obtained these belief systems from. And she kind of looked at me and said, well, maybe it would dry, maybe it wouldn't cook all the way to see it, maybe, but you don't know because you've never tried it. And she kind of looked at me like with disappointment and said, oh my gosh, like if that's the case, and I've been working harder all my life, but that's how they taught me, right? She kind of wanted to fight like it wouldn't work. And my question was, how do you know if you've never tried it? So we have an ongoing conversation about how we're going to get together and make tamales that way and see if it really works. So it's very similar to how we believe what we believe and why we do what we do. Some of us are working a lot harder than we need to. Just we have no idea because we've just always done it that way, right? So we got together with my sisters last week and they were talking about making pupusas, and pupusas is a Salvadorian dish, super yummy. And so we had an assembly line, chopped everything up. We went on TikTok, got a couple of videos. And the reason why this started is because I had told my sisters, we were talking, they really like them. I don't eat them that often, but they go and purchase them. And I remember there was a comment made that said, oh my gosh, it would be fun. It would be nice to learn how to make them, but it seems too hard. Or it would be too hard. And I said, well, how do you know if you've never tried it, right? So I'm not saying go and try everything, right? But I do want to challenge you guys to start asking yourself these questions. Who told me they were hard? I've never tried them. How am I supposed to know this, right? So with that being said, I told my sisters, hey, let's just make them on Friday. It was like 2 days later. So we go get all the ingredients. We're making these pupusas. We're laughing. It's like the blind leading the blind. Nobody knows what to put or whatever. So I said, hey, let's just have fun. So we sit there and one kept saying they have to be perfectly round. The other one kept saying they have to be thin. I was just saying they have to be good. So again, the concept of whatever that was like, we ended up making them. It wasn't that difficult. We had a great time. We all laughed at each other. And we learned that this dish wasn't as complicated as we thought, nor did it have to be how exactly they have purchased them and ate them before. So again, there was a variety of them. We all kind of had our own style. I said, just have fun with it. We all have the main ingredients, but every one of us prepared it differently. And I thought it was a beautiful thing because we kind of even had like, we're like Iron Chef America and had to judge our pupusa, which one looked better, which one tastes better. They were all different. We all liked them. We all took different protocols and procedures to make them. And we all created them using different tools, right? So it didn't matter. The end result was something we were proud of, and we can honestly say we tried something. So this is what I want you guys to take a look at when you're evaluating your relationships and you're becoming aware of why you do what you do. Sometimes you've just been doing the same thing because you were taught that way. You never jumped out of the program and you never asked yourself a different question. You kind of just did whatever it is that you were taught to do. So this is going to kind of shake things up a little bit where you're understanding a little more about why you do what you do. And that to me is probably the most important thing, because once again, you have the awareness, choices start changing to get different results. And you don't always think like, oh, my life has always been this way and it's just always going to be. And they literally, for many people, there is no light at the end of the tunnel. They're just in this tunnel all the time living it, right? Now there's times where we're going to be in a tunnel because we're waiting for things to happen. And my answer to that is decorate the tunnel while you're waiting. Why not, right? Like make it comfy while you're there. That's always fun for me to do anyway. All right. So once you guys have an idea of, what it is that you watched when you were growing up, what was modeled to you, and then kind of ask yourself, hey, do I still do this? Or like, do I do something different? Have I created my own, traditions, whether it's with, holidays with your family, to do what your mom did to you when you were a kid? Do you not do it because you didn't like it? Like ask yourself these questions, right? I want you to also ask yourself if you have any idea who influenced you to be in the circle that you're in today. The friends that you keep, were they influenced by somebody in your family? Some friends, hey, we hung out with these kind of people, so you're going to hang out with those kind of people. So who and what influenced you to be in the circle that you're in today? Whether they're good circles or not, I'm not asking. It's just who did, right? Because I'm not judging anybody's circle. I want you to be aware of the circle you're in and why you're in it. We talk many times about how, we need to start realizing that other people or things can't make us happy. And this really ties into that, because you'd be surprised how much what other people in your circle say or do influences your choices and whether or not you're going to succeed at something or be encouraged to pursue it as you're, wanting to have these beautiful things in your life. Like school, nobody influenced me to go to school. It was kind of like an internal force. I shared a little bit, and my family's like, "What are you going to school for?" I was the first in my family to get a college degree, and it wasn't something that I thought I was going to do growing up, because I shared with you guys I did not like school. It just wasn't normal to go to school. We graduated from high school, and then that was it. And it's not because nobody wanted me. They just didn't. We didn't have an example of it, right? So nobody said, "Hey, look into these degrees or do this or you should be." It was just kind of get out of high school and get a job. Again, it's not a bad thing. It's just, nobody in my family had experienced it. So why would they share it? All right. I also want you to ask yourself if you knew that you carry wounds from previous relationships, whether they're romantic or otherwise. If you are in a relationship, it doesn't matter if it's romantic or otherwise, and there was hurt, if there was damage, if there was betrayal, if there was a whole bunch of other stuff, did you know that unless you heal those things, you literally do transfer them over to your next relationship? And we could say, like, no, I haven't, I didn't, whatever. So if you were in a relationship and the person was not honest with you, you will, if you have not healed it, believe that other people are also going to not be honest, right? And it gets a lot deeper than that. But I just want you guys to be aware that there are trust issues, there are expectations, and there are things that hurt because we haven't healed the things that other people have, I'm not going to say put us through, that other people had, given us to experience, right? Because we all want to do it differently. I honestly believe that people stay in relationships as long as they're supposed to, till they learn whatever they're supposed to. I try not to judge it, right? Whether or not it's a narcissistic relationship, codependency, like it doesn't matter. There's a reason why people stay in those relationships. And it's very easy for us to be like, oh my God, how can you be with that person? They cheated, or oh my God, that person is, so mean and so abusive and, emotionally, physically, spiritually, whatever, right? And it's so easy for us to look at them and say, I would never do that. I could never do that. You have no idea what this person has experienced, right? And it's very easy to say, hey, don't judge them, you don't know. But there is a need that each one of us has that really, really we look at wanting to be filled, and we try to fill it, in ways that sometimes may not be so healthy, right? And many can say, hey, you know what? There's so much fun stuff happening in our lives, and sometimes we're so caught up with other people's choices that we don't honor their journey, right? And I'm not saying you wake up and you're intentionally wanting to jump on there and hurt people or hurt yourself, but that's what seems to happen. Oh my gosh, so my sister just commented, she was making pupusas with us, and that was another thing. She's so cinematic when it comes to like everything that she does. So we're making these pupusas, and they're like these little dough balls. I have to share that because that's so funny. She just done that. So little dough balls, and they're filled with, cheese, and they can have chicken, and they can have pork rinds, a whole bunch of stuff. So you put it into this dough, and you kind of make it like a tortilla. For those of you listening, you can't see. But once you do that, you just smooth it out to make it into like a little tortilla. It's a little bit thicker than a tortilla. And my sister, she says she has like tendonitis, carpal tunnel tendencies in her hands. And so she had seen these videos, and these ladies are like clapping, they're just jumping around, they're moving a lot. And I tell her, sis, it's not that serious. You're gonna hurt your hands. She goes, yeah, but I'm clapping for myself as I'm making them, because they say you should be very excited about it. And I'm dying laughing, right? Because she's modeling what they showed her in all these TikTok videos. And I know, sis, at the end of the day, you were super tired because she was super animated while she was making these things. And I'm like, but preserve yourself. Like, that's why you're pooped all the time. Because, I'm okay with her being excited, but she just tends to like clap them and do it more. And I'm just kind of stretching it out. My other sister's making like snowballs with it. It was just hilarious, right? But it was lovely to see that everybody was doing things their way. And she says she was clapping the whole time for herself. So she was her own cheerleader while this is happening. And you know what? Thank you, sis, for bringing that up, because there are times where we need to be clapping for ourselves, where we are taking on challenges, where we're trying to see things differently. So I want to encourage you guys to not just be stuck in the same way you've seen always, but to ask yourself, is there a different way that I can do this, right? I want to ask you, in these relationships, right? Like we asked earlier, like, do you have a picture of what an ideal relationship looks like? Have you seen it modeled somewhere, whether in your family or friends or whatever? And if you haven't, like maybe if you are looking to pursue a healthy relationship, to be with people who have these healthy relationships so they can kind of show you the how-tos, right? A lot of times it has to do with healing up the old wounds that you have. Again, it could be through childhood, through previous relationships, again, romantic or not, but we tend to duplicate, these things because again, we're on repeat, okay? I also want you to ask yourself if the person you're with right now is capable of being that, right? So maybe you have an idea of this ideal relationship that you want, but you're with this individual and you're expecting them to be who they are. And my question to you is, are they even capable of being the person that you need them to be in this ideal relationship, right? I have, couples will I'll counsel, and many times, oh, when we were dating, they were this way or that way. When soon they got married, they changed, right? And we also have people that are complaining about, and they're very valid. My spouse just is a romantic, and he doesn't do anything or she doesn't do anything. She's not very affectionate, whatever. And so I'll ask this question, like, were they ever? And they kind of stop and they look at me or they look around the room and they look at each other and say, no, actually, they never have been. So, I mean, it's so, clear to me. I'm looking at these things, right? Because I'm the observer looking from the outside in. But we have these people expecting the other person to be something they never were. Like if you were never romantic, if he was or she was never romantic, why are you expecting them to be romantic, right? And it's probably because we watch Netflix or people say that they should be romantic, or we're envious of other relationships that have romantic partners. I mean, there's so many reasons why this could take place, right? So I want you guys to ask yourself those questions. And also, are you ignoring any signs? Do you know that, but pretend you can't see it so you don't have to think about maybe not being in that relationship? That's also a very important question to ask yourself, right? Are you assuming that these people do have the ability and then they don't? Are we ignoring the signs? Are you mad because you don't want to be in this relationship with this person, but you're settling because what if whatever I get next is worse than this person? Right? You'd be surprised how much we minimize the importance of the people that we want in our lives because we think that we deserve nothing like it, right? Maybe you're okay with staying in a relationship because you think you can't do any better. Well, it's not true. That's just because you believe you can't do any better. So as soon as your value starts changing within yourself and your worth, guess what? You do start attracting different things, but you have to start with you first. Many of us do numb, the emptiness with other things. We talk about that. We'll kind of be okay with this person being this, but not that, or at least they do this. So there's times where I have people, well, you know what, they're a great provider, they're an awesome parent, they're this, and they're just not romantic. Okay, well, are all the qualities they have enough for you to be like, hey, I'm okay with this. They're not super romantic. Maybe I need to learn how to romanticize myself. And that works, you guys. It really works. The minute you do that, you need to stop expecting the other person to be it, though. If you already know they're not capable of being that way, that's not their forte, you can't get upset every time that they don't follow through with something romantic, right? It's very similar to people who are in relationships who maybe had some infidelity happen, and they go through counseling or whatever, and they, say they forgive each other. But every time there is, something happening, they tend to bring it back up again. And that's just because the wounds haven't been healed yet, right? The other person can't heal the wounds for you. They can say they're sorry, but if we don't get to the root cause of why it happened and how it is that one's going to accept responsibility and how it is that you're going to heal your own wounds, every time something comes up, you're going to feel justified in being upset with this person. They're triggers, you guys. They're wounds. I'm not saying you wake up and, all of a sudden you're upset and you have a right to be mad at this person, so you do it on purpose. No, they're internal triggers from wounds that haven't been healed yet, right? Unfortunately, that's a topic when I work with, couples a lot, and different relationships, just, mother-daughter, sibling relationships. A lot of times people react, they're triggered by things that bring up past wounds. And people really want to get over it. They don't want to keep beating that person up or being mad or whatever. But it's very unrealistic to believe that just because something happened or somebody said sorry, that this person's just supposed to be okay with it. Now you can get there. Let me tell you, there are different modalities that we use that helps you heal up a whole bunch of the reasons why people did what they did and how you were receiving those types of, let's say betrayals in this case, right? But you have to be so completely honest with yourself to do the work and not expect the other person to forever clean up the mess, because that's what drives people away. It's like, hey, you hurt me, you're going to pay for the rest of your life. I forgive you, but every time I'm irritated, I'm going to tell you something about it. Like, that's not okay, because then we become, the judger. And, whenever we're upset becomes judgment day. That's not fair for the person that is trying to mend this relationship, right? And you also have to look at yourself and say, are you with people that are doing this to you and somehow you're allowing it to happen, right? I'm not saying it's your fault that people hurt you. I'm asking yourself how you're positioning yourself for these things to continue to take place, and what it is that you are doing to make sure that you are actually healing yourself to not be in a relationship where this is continuing to happen. Okay? All right. I wanted to bring up another question before we leave today, because there are many people out there that are people pleasers. Ask me how I know. And we tend to promise and promise and promise the world for everybody, and promise tasks, objects, projects, whatever, because at the time that they say, hey, this, whatever, it sounds fun, interesting, you think you can do it, so you go ahead and commit. Then you find out that you've committed a little too much, and then you feel bad. So when it comes time, you either don't answer your phone, you don't deliver whatever you said you were going to, and then you feel bad and curl up into a little ball and then hide from the world, right? This is a huge part that anxiety plays a role in. I want you guys to really look at people that maybe have done favors for you, or if you're one of these people. I remember that if 10 favors were asked of me at one point and I did 9, the person or people would complain about the one I didn't get a chance to do. So 2 things happen. People just keep expecting more the more you give. Unless you're actually working on creating healthy boundaries, it's always going to be the case. I don't care who it is, what relationship. It could be work related, it could be romantic, it could be, friendships, whatever, right? So for those of you that are overcommitting and under delivering, I want you to ask yourself first, why do you keep committing to these things, even though you feel good about it, right? Like, I know you can say, oh, because at the time it was a great idea, or I had the time. So how about we ask for this pause of wisdom, that when somebody needs something, we don't automatically say yes, right? Because for many, it is a habit. And so when we say yes, we mean it, and then other things happen or we don't feel like it. Now, 1, we're embarrassed and we don't communicate, number 1. 2, our anxiety gets all riled up because, like, oh my gosh, I feel bad. What am I going to say? What am I going to do? They're going to think I'm mean. Oh my gosh. Or you think you have to deliver something perfectly. Let me tell you that the best way to heal through that is to expose yourself to feeling bad. If that means that you're going to watch how much you commit to, be okay with responding and saying, hey, you know what? I know I committed. I may not be able to do it. And if you know that the sooner the better to deliver that message to the individual, and they're going to have to work through it. And you're going to have to work through feeling bad, the guilt, the shame, whatever it is. But the only way to get through those type of emotions is to actually experience them. And you'll find that when you're doing that, you don't like the way it feels, so you're going to tend to stop overcommitting. And this is something we're going to talk about a little bit more, but I wanted to throw it in your ear today because I know that many people don't not deliver because they just say, oh, screw them, I don't want to do it anymore. It really is a whole bunch of emotions that are coming in. And this is the number 1 reason why in many relationships, there's miscommunication, there's misunderstanding. We speak, we're hoping the other person can cut our head open and see what we're thinking. And unfortunately, that's not the case, right? There is said to be a time that we will all have telepathic communication. But until then, let's work on understanding, first of all, how to create healthy boundaries so you're not overcommitting and under-delivering, number 1. Number 2, really think about boundaries and how it is that they play a role in your life and the habits that you've created because you have not been able to create healthy ones due to whatever reason. Ask yourself these questions, right? Another thing I want you guys to really think about is saying, do you know that if these people, or do you feel that if you don't say yes to these people, they won't want to be your friends anymore? So once you know what that is, write them down and say, okay, is this the kind of relationship I want to feel stressed in? Are these the kind of friendships that I want in my life? Do I feel comfortable telling these people that I've been people pleasing all my life and that's why I do it? Sometimes I just don't follow through. Do you feel comfortable talking to your circle? Do they inspire you? Do they check in on you? Or are they always asking you for favors and asking you to do things that you would rather not be doing, but hey, you don't want to lose them, right? So you just keep doing it. This is huge, you guys. I want you guys to really pay attention to the people in your circle, how they influence you, how you feel stressed, what you are doing, what you have been doing, what you wish you would stop doing in these relationships. Now I'm not saying cut everybody off. This is a self-evaluation. I talk about others so you can see yourselves. Because remember, others are our mirrors. So I hope this has been a little helpful for you guys, that you have gotten some insight, that you are going to start, turning those wheels of wisdom in your mind. And it's not about blaming you guys, it's about self-observation, right? Again, we talk about awareness, and for you to figure out, who do I want to be? Like if you could literally create the whole new person, a whole new you, and how you would be in relationships, what would that look like? And ask yourself if you are comfortable enough, or if you are able to be that person in these relationships. Write down the ideal relationship you want, right? Whether it be romantic or otherwise. What kind of friends would you like? What kind of job would you like? What kind of relationship would you like with money? Because believe it or not, it has a lot to do with your finances as well. Thank you guys for being here tonight, or today. My goodness, I keep saying tonight. I think it's nighttime and it's not. I'm so excited to be here. This topic I know is going to also be triggering a few of you. I know you're going to feel lonely in the process. I know you're going to feel like you wouldn't be able to live life without these people. And that's literally what we're trying to do. We're trying to disrupt the belief systems around you believing that there's certain relationships that may not be so healthy, but you for some reason think you have to stay in it, that you have to either save these people or that's all you deserve, So ask yourself a couple of questions. You'd be surprised how much of it gets answered just by you asking. And many times it's answered by just watching other people, right? What happens if I'm the one that, has trained people to teach me in a way where they just pretty much use me and abuse me when I come around? What did I do? How did I start that? And then once you know, how do I break that? And you'll be surprised how many answers start flying your way. So again, always keep yourselves a notepad, pen nearby, start a note on your phone. And as information comes in, just start jotting it down, you guys. It doesn't have to make sense, but they're like puzzle pieces. And you'll start putting them together. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to write in, message. Again, we are everywhere on social media. Feel free to look at us, ask yourself the questions that I know are very, very important. Who do you hang out with, right? Don't forget to write them down. And I also want you to, at the end of all that, to ask you what inspires you. Like, what inspires me? And write that down. And if it hasn't been modeled to you, but somehow you just want it, there's a reason for it, right? And I do believe that many of us get dreams and visions and ideas because they're for us to actually obtain. We just get caught up in the how-tos. And again, like we said, once the student is ready, the teacher shows up. So don't limit yourself because you don't know what that looks like yet. I see that mentors show up when they're supposed to. And it's always awesome to know that timing is everything. So as long as you are ready, everything else is going to show up for you. Don't forget to ask yourself what inspires you at the end of the day. And I will encourage you guys to ask yourself that in the mornings as well. Awesome. Coach Velia, have an amazing rest of your day. We will chat with you guys on Thursday. See you then.